What up? Welcome.
Let's Happen to Action Sunday night service, take 445.
We have been at this for a while. We want to welcome everybody to Religiously Incorrect Podcast. I'm Pastor Todd.
I'm Pastor Jeff, and we are brought to you today by the African American Community Fund.
You gonna put T on the end of everything?
The African American Community Fund, established in 2020 at the foundation of Appalachian, Ohio, supports Black-led and Black-owned organizations throughout the 32 counties of Appalachian, Ohio, to elevate the quality of life and address disparities in African American communities.
This is a lot.
Please check them out at www.appalachianohio.org, AACF, and you can call at 740-753-1111. Please check them out.
That was a wonderful reading, Pastor Jeff. I think we need to do like they used to do in elementary school, where we all have to read a line and go around the room. You know what I'm saying? Because that's a lot.
We just gonna cut it down a little.
Just gonna cut it down a little bit.
We're gonna make it work for religiously. We're gonna religiously incorrectify it.
We are so religiously incorrect. We are starting like a real old school Sunday night service, 25 minutes late. And I used to be, when I was first dating, I would joke about when I first met my wife at church today, and when I started going to her church, and yes, it was the Church of God in Christ Church. Yes. I'd be the only dummy to show up on time, all by myself.
Can we do this? Can we do this next week? I'll talk about Appalachian Fund, and I'll just tell you, read.
And I'll be your reader. I'll be your reader. Yes. Read. Because what is church without having a reader?
You got to have one.
I think the church lost its power when we stopped having readers.
Absolutely. You got to read for yourself.
Mother Marsh, get ready. Get ready. I'm about to bring back the reader. Good evening, everybody. So listen, we had to rig up a system to come to you live because we love you so much.
We love you.
We love you so much.
I know y'all can't go without us.
Jeff tried to leave 3 times. He tried to leave. He said, y'all don't pay me enough to do this. But we're
wife
here.
Is ovulating, so I'm.
Your wife is again. Man, this is hilarious. Okay, I can't wait to see her comments. Well, so I'm reading your comments, by the way, on my phone. I can read your comments. We don't have our monitor screen in front of us.
And I'm sorry, I can't do 2 things at one time, so don't make no comments to me. So.
Yeah, she'll be fine. Hey, Rashad, good to see you. Apparently, our guests were spotted already, so Moriah's mother is already shouting her out. She said, "My baby!" she texted everybody, "Tune in! My baby's on TV."
We have a lot of views today.
Right. We got Pastor Glenn. Good to see you, Marlon, Deacon Marlon, Mother Marsh. I see Tiffany is on. And y'all make sure y'all like and share and comment. We're not on YouTube, so if anybody's looking for us on YouTube, we're going to have to upload later. Mm-hmm. And, I was this close.
Okay.
This close to hitting our producer with a folding chair. Because the story of the day, the story of the week, of the month of August kicked off with a bang with Chairgate.
My God.
Chairgate.
Don't make no sense.
I mean,
actually, it does make sense.
Has there ever been anything, Tiffany said, Jeff, has there ever been anything that has brought Black people together more than Chairgate?
I love it. I absolutely love it.
I do. And people are criticizing it like, this ain't real progress and y'all should. I'm like, just be quiet.
Wait a minute.
We want to hit white people with chairs, and that's what we want to do.
In response to Chairgate.
Yes. Throw the hat. It's all like Donkey Kong.
Yes.
That is a universal signal.
That's the call.
Ninjas are simple.
Batman to the cave.
Right. They came out the portal like the Avengers. They showed up Black Panther.
The brother swam. And I've been in the Navy, so I know what it is.
Aquaman.
When you get done swimming, you don't want to do nothing. That brother swam, got up, and
was ready to go.
Was ready to go.
Man. I mean, it was. Listen, Chairgate, it was happening Saturday, and it started to blow up Sunday.
Yes.
I mean, I'm in church looking at this stuff. Like,
How can I preach this?
How can I
add this to my sermon?
How can I slip this in to the word today? But I mean, it was something else. Marlon said, "Good evening, pastors. Everyone have their folding chairs in case something breaks out." Dooley said, "Is this live or not?" We talking to you, Negro. It's live.
It's live.
As all get out. In our history, we deserve at least one comeuppance. This is Terrence. They don't get mad when they run up on folks with tiki torches. Thank you very much.
Indeed,
so for anybody who has been living under a rock for the past 7 days, or perhaps you were in a coma, praise God for your testimony that you're back out now. But a fight broke out in Montgomery, Alabama, of all places.
Of all places.
Of all places. In Alabama, near Montgomery, on a riverboat cruise dock. The story just gets better just talking about it. And the story is that a black dock worker was trying to tell some Caucasian guys on like a pontoon style boat or whatever, I guess they were like on a recreational boat, to move their boat, and it got aggressive and angry, and they confronted him, and he threw his hat in the air, and the rest is history. The rest is history.
The rest is history.
And the funny thing is the angles.
It's all over.
Thank God for cell phones.
I done a TikTok with me and the devil had a tussle.
You and the devil had a
tussle. And I had a chair.
On the chair?
I had a chair. I had the folding chair.
But, I mean, it was absolutely... It said Dr. Ralph West had a folding chair in his sermon today. That is hilarious. Ralph West is a beast, by the way, down in Texas. So we've just been talking about chairs, folding chairs, because here's the funny thing. It started off about the fight itself. Mm-hmm. And then it was the swimmer.
Yeah.
Then this was a progressive story. Because it didn't start off we didn't start off talking about chairs. The chair came later when we saw the full footage. It started off with the guy fighting and people running to his rescue, and we was like, fight the power. Then Aquaman showed up.
Aquaman.
And that's Maine.
Yeah, Aquaman.
Yeah, it's Aquaman, right, like Terrence Howard. He showed up, and then we were proud of, because apparently black people can't swim.
But I was also proud of the lady recording, because she done a phenomenal.
Oh, she was an excellent commentator.
Please give her a
hire
job.
her for like WWE or
with Tyler Perry. You need to go
Monday
see
Night
that lady.
Football.
Get her a wig. You know you got those wigs, Tyler.
Oh, they don't fit nobody else. Might as well try them on somebody news head. And now it's just gone wild. But I think, of course, black people being who we are, the memes.
The T-shirts.
The dude had a T-shirt then the very next day.
Oh, they capitalized like a big dog.
I mean, I got some for sale now on my website, reverendchair.com. So we're gonna go through a couple of these.
Let's go through a couple.
These are our favorite memes, and Big Mike, I put the best one at the end, because I just think that preachers got to get on it too. So we gonna jump right into it. It's gonna be our meme of the week. It's gonna be rapid fire meme. Y'all know what time it is. It's meme of the week.
It's meme of the week. Meme of the week.
Welcome to Religiously Incorrect, ladies and gentlemen.
Meme of the week. Meme of the week.
Thank you. Send us your memes of the week.
These are all jokes. We are just playing.
Jeff had to put his hat back on before he catch a cold. Getting pneumonia. Hey, I do got to shout out Elder Dooley. He did write an entire song, his own version of Lift Every Chair and Swing. And you know what's good about it, Elder Dooley? You're reaching the young folk, because my 9-year-old showed it to me. My 9-year-old said, "Hey, that Terrence guy, did you see his song?" And I'm like, man, you're
Lift
reaching
every chair and swing.
You're reaching generations. So
my God.
These are our favorite memes. We're going to go ahead and we have Moriah and Mark with us. They're just going to laugh and talk along with us, and then we'll talk some serious stuff or semi-serious stuff later. But come on, Mike, bring our first meme. We're going to talk about some of our memes. Martin Luther King with a chair. I have a dream.
Nonviolence, my butt.
I have a chair. I have a chair today. I have a chair today. All right, that's pretty good. All right. Malcolm X with a chair.
You know he had one.
Well, you know he had one. He's probably used a few in his day.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's right.
I shared that one on my page.
You shared that one on your page?
And they all up and down Martin Luther King Street, too.
Correct. The most dangerous streets in America. All right. Montgomery, Alabama says, I have a seat. Oh, have a seat. In 2023 says, have a seat. So we brought Rosa Parks. You notice how we're acknowledging all of our civil rights icons?
Absolutely.
Shout out to the ancestors. We're really including you in the foolery, too. All right. If I text you swim and boat, my people on the way. That's a good one. All right. What do we got? Oh, the color purple. That's Miss Seeley.
Chair. C-H-A-I-R.
Okay, what's that? Oh, listen, my man getting ready for a new school year.
Yes.
These kids gonna learn today. Hey, you send your bad kids to school if you want to. You'll come home with another dent because they probably already have one in their head. Okay. Oh, Elder Dooley. Lift every chair and swing. I love it. All right, what do we got now? They're calling him Aquaman. Told you.
Aquaman.
They're calling him Aquaman. He was 16 years old, too.
Was he?
You know kids like to fight.
Man, oh yeah.
That just lets you know how much kids like to fight. They will swim to a fight. They will swim to fight.
It ain't just kids. Todd had to break up a fight the other day. I was like, man, you should have called me.
Oh, man.
You should have called me.
Jeff was disappointed. Oh, this is the Avengers. Listen, it's like porting from the what's that one place called in Wakanda? The ancestral plains.
Yeah, the ancestral.
Yeah, that's where they came from. I can't even read that one.
I can't even see it.
It's the bat signal. The hat is the bat signal.
Oh, okay.
I'm feeling it. All right, we're getting the chair side of the story. The chair said, there I was, just minding my own business. Okay, good times. This is good times. Ain't you lucky we got them, these chairs. All right, okay, we got the Olympic. Got the Olympic fish chairs. Oh, I love this one. Back to the answers. Harriet Tubman. Take this chair. Beat that master with it. Now, what if you got pulled over and this is what you saw? An officer with a chair. All right. Chairs on sale at Walmart.
Man.
Chairs on sale. And my man Larry put, I think it says on the caption, they ain't never had chairs in the front of the store before.
There now.
They know how to market. And here's my favorite one. Pastors got to preach on it. Use what you got. The Sunday sermon. Now, I know, I didn't even mention it because I'm a disciplined, spirit-filled, anointed preacher. You know, I don't let pop culture tell me what to preach. But I'm aware that several preachers took chairs to the pulpit with
definitely.
them. Now, you know where I will take a chair? I won't take it to the pulpit. I won't preach with it. But next church meeting,
hey, guess what?
next church meeting, it's on.
I double chair you.
I double dog chair you. And you know, the funny thing is, those of us that grew up with WWF stuff, this is nothing new.
It's not
We've
new.
been watching cats get hit with chairs our whole life.
All my life.
Right.
Yeah.
I was like, we thought it didn't hurt.
It wasn't real though, was it?
No, there was some chairs.
They was really getting
they
hit.
Knew how to pull up.
Yeah, they knew how to hit them just the right
They knew how to hit them just the right place, man. That's like the only one real move in the whole.
I was like, because the way he hit her was.
But you know, some of those chairs still got somebody else's
Name on it.
Oh
yeah, United Free Methodist Church, Freeport. Alfie said, "The chair of God in Christ." Okay, so on behalf of all pastors, I will say that to all of you members that have borrowed chairs and never brought them back, as long as you use
Or
them
tables.
as long as you use them to defend yourself against racism, I'm cool. Count it even.
It's a weapon of mass destruction.
It's a weapon of mass destruction. Yeah, so I mean, it's gonna die down, but it was a feel good moment.
Did you hear the interview that he had? The chair guy? They interviewed him.
They actually interviewed the chair guy.
Ricky Smiley interviewed him.
Okay.
And he said his answer was, I just blacked out and I thought about when they wouldn't let Rosa have a seat on the bus. That was his exact words.
That's comedy. He said, this is payback for my ancestors.
Hey.
I heard they're coming out with a license to carry a chair now.
Hey.
Not in Florida, they ain't.
CCW.
Not in Florida. No, you can freely carry chairs wherever. 2, 3 chairs. Extra large chairs, armchairs, posturepedics. You can have whatever you want. We're going to start the National Chair Association.
Hey, them steel chairs is they get you right.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
They will get you right.
Especially a swing like that.
Absolutely.
I got a couple in my trunk right now.
Right now,
Yes,
see?
sir. Yes, sir.
You gotta be careful. I got some outside my office. All right, so Religiously Incorrect is brought to you by the Phillips Family Care of Businesses. Phillips Lawn Care Services, they are the premier lawn care service in the Mahoning Valley. They've been in business for over a decade. My man Fernando, I know him personally. They do a bang-up job, whether it's winter, spring, summer, or fall. You know your leaves are about to come down. You don't want to rake them. I don't want to rake them. Call Phillips Care. They'll take care of it. 219-7916. And while you're at it, check out Phillips Care Cleaning Service. They do residential and commercial cleaning, floor cleaning, carpet cleaning. You know your kids been running around the house all summer long with their dirty feet from outside. Go on ahead and get that carpet shampooed. They also do maintenance, move in, move out, all types of repairs for your home, for your business, your garage, your secret family you got on the other side of town, whatever it takes. They'll take care of it. Check out Phillips Care. Check out Phillips
And
Care.
he'll tell on you.
He won't tell on you. Phillips Care LLC on Facebook.
What you do on the other side of town.
It's been a long day, y'all. Don't hit me with a chair. And people still asking me to borrow chairs in the church. No. So, hey, y'all, we got one more.
We are also brought to you by Action, the Alliance for Congregational Transformation, influencing our neighborhoods. What? Guided by our faith traditions, shared values, and multicultural collaboration, we strive to develop a community of diverse leaders committed to raising awareness and seeking solutions to overcome poverty, racism, and social justice. We are still looking for a couple of golfers. If you want to get your Tiger Woods on, our golf outing is on 9/11. Please call
9/11.
myself. We will be having a memorial service for those who fell on that day. So please call myself at 330-766-8476. Action, the Alliance for Congregational
I'm
Transformation.
going to keep that one to myself. All right. I'm going to keep that. You don't even want to know. All right. We keep that to myself. So today's show, y'all, is entitled The Lost Generation. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to put like some inflection on that, you know. You know I'm taking a preaching course, right?
Okay.
I'm learning how to preach.
Finally.
Oh! Cabo D. So you have to put some inflection on your voice.
You gotta put inflection.
The Lost Generation? Remember how we were taught how to read? It's a question mark. So our theme, Pastor Jeff, is the young folk. The young folk. You know what I love? I am officially at the age where I can talk about the young folk.
And they're officially at the age where they can talk about me. So
correct. We're here to talk about, hey, Tanya, how y'all doing in Florida? The young folk. We're here to talk about the disconnect and the challenges of young adults and the church. And we picked 2 young adults that are unlike the last time we had some young adults in the church. We had church musicians, worship leaders, the kind of people that are very ingrained,
Cats was born in church.
Listen, pew babies.
They had midwives in the church delivering them.
It was born on a fan. They wrapped them in a choir robe.
They came out the birthing canal and right into the baptismal pool.
Their first bottle was communion. The microphone was a rattle.
Their first word was Genesis. Genesis? Genesis.
All right, man. That's it.
They didn't have diapers. They had them lap cloths for diapers. All right, y'all. We're just enjoying ourselves because the show is late. All right, so we asked, and I'm not making them out to be heathens, but they kind of are, you know.
My mom's on here.
My mom know I'm a heathen. It's okay.
Right. She calls you every day. So we're here to talk to young adults, about the real thoughts and raw feelings about church, about faith, about Christianity, about the image we portray, what they like to see out of us.
Because truth be told, there is a stereotype that young folk just
absolutely
don't go to church.
Don't do church.
We got to do something to get the young folk back in. We got to do something to get the young folk back in. Well, here's a couple young folk.
I'm going to use that word all night. Young folk.
Why they ain't coming?
Can I just say one more before we introduce our guest? The problem with that whole we got to get the young folk in, it almost always comes from people who have no intention of genuinely welcoming young folk, engaging young folk, or changing anything about the church.
And when they do come in, you ignore them.
Exactly. Dog them out. We need the young folk. Look at that skirt. That's how it be. So we want to introduce Moriah and Mark as our resident young folk. Speaking on behalf of all young folk everywhere,
you are the spokesperson.
You are now the spokespersons for young folk. You're the young folk caucus. Wow. All right. First, start with Moriah. Ladies first. Tell us a little bit about yourself real quick. Give us like the quick and dirty where you were born and raised, your church experience, and we don't want a whole biography, but just tell us a little bit about like your background when it comes to church.
She brought her biography to read, actually.
She did, yeah. She brought a portrait we're going to put up.
But that's because I'm the new co-host. I just was going to announce that today.
She's going to hijack the show one way or another.
So born and raised right here in Warren. My background in church, born and raised in church, grew up in church. I've had pretty much all good experiences in church and nothing too bad that I could say at all. That's just a quick summary.
Okay. So you were born and raised in church.
Very much.
Did you ever have a time when you stopped going to church? Like, you're like, I'm cool.
during COVID.
During COVID?
I watched live.
That's just about everybody. Yeah, right. So I wasn't even going. Forget it. I quit. All right, Mark, tell us about yourself. A little background.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mark the Heathen.
That's his new rap name.
Yeah, I am a rapper.
You're famous for that, dog. Mark the Heathen?
Maybe. I got to work on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm an artist, a rap artist, a musician, born and raised in Warren, Ohio. I was also born into the church, so to speak, but since I've kind of navigated on my own spiritual path. So, yeah, here we are.
In other words, he's a devil worshiper.
Right. we gonna get to that own spiritual path thing in a minute. How do you have your own spiritual path?
When his eyes roll to the back of his head and he says, all hell Beelzebub, we know what's up. We know what's going on. So we wanted to talk to you guys because I'm supposed to be the young pastor around here. I'm 41 now. I don't feel so young, but I'm still younger. Pastor Jeff is still considered a fairly young pastor in the grand scheme of how old pastors normally are, like age range. And that's no disrespect to pastors. We just kind of fall in that younger space a little bit.
Y'all do?
So they say. If you ask a couple 80-year-old dudes, yeah. You got all the young folk. But I like Pastor Jeff's demeanor is obviously accommodating and, real down to earth, and that kind of thing. Obviously, I do a lot of work in the community. And we have great interests, and I like to say sincere and genuine interests.
Right.
But I also have this mindset and mentality that I think that sometimes the answers that we give ourselves in the church are not accurate because it's almost like sometimes it sounds more like sour grapes and like bitterness, resentment, and blaming and deflection than honest like introspection. And then I also feel like from the outside, some of the stereotypes and some of the imagery and now in this world, memes and jokes, they're not terribly accurate and representative either. I think they're just easy, cheap, and sometimes often funny answers, but they're not necessarily speaking for many young people who are, like you said, genuinely on a spiritual journey. You know what I mean? I'm sure you're not living your whole life off a meme about Joel Osteen being a millionaire or something.
Right.
Like, well, that ain't why I go to church because of him. If you listen to the popular culture, that's sort of what's thrown around all the time. So I kind of want to start there. What are some of the misconceptions maybe that we as pastors, church folk, might have about why young people don't go to church? And I want you to specifically speak of something that you've heard and you've seen people kind of talk about, complain about, throw out there, and you're like, that's not really me. There's not a lot of people I know. Are there any misconceptions?
I I mean, off the top of my head, maybe just that we don't believe in God at all.
Okay.
Like he just said, how are you on your own spiritual journey? It's because I have my own spirit. So that's a simple answer for that one. I don't really have a lot of misconceptions because I didn't really do homework for that question. But that's the first thing that comes to my head is that, like, we just don't believe in God. We don't believe in treating others right and, you know, living by some of the same principles that the typical Christian man or woman would.
Gotcha. So you haven't abandoned everything
right.
because you don't go to a traditional Christian church.
Right.
Okay. All right. I'm feeling it. All right. You want to kick in on that?
Honestly, for me, I don't think that there is a lot of misconception at all.
Okay.
For my generation, a lot of stuff that is said and a lot of things that older people think, I think is I actually agree with it. My generation is pretty tainted.
Oh, talk about that a little bit.
Yes.
Talk about the taint.
Like, my generation, they're just so woke. You know, it's just the new thing. We're so woke and everything is like questioned that it's just, they don't know what's going on. Really, they don't. So for me, I agree with the older crowd in my generation.
So you agree with the older crowd?
For the most part, yeah.
You think it's a problem with people questioning things?
I don't think it's a problem per se, but I do think that some things that are questioned is just like really not necessary.
That's good. That's good. Right.
So see, you're a thinker, first of all. But let me go here before I go. So do you both feel that social media has had a negative or a positive effect, especially on the youth of today? You know, we see so much, and I can go up and down my timeline, and I can go from Muslim to Christian to, you know, whatever, you know what I mean? And so, you know, there are a million different perspectives.
So more exposure.
There's more exposure as to, you know, my mother took me to one church. She took me to Baptist church. That's all I knew about growing up. That's where I came up. But now social media has put like you said, just a lot more exposure.
I think it's both negative and positive. On the negative side, of course, you have people who have all these different philosophies. And if you listen to some of these things, it can make you start to be like, hold on, you know, if you, depending on how strong your faith is or how strong your end of, like, far as Christianity or what religion it is, it can have you question that if you listen. Sometimes it actually kind of seems like it makes sense. Mm-hmm. So I think that's when it's the negative effect. Oh, sorry. I think that's when it's the negative effect. But as far as the positive effect is sometimes people who aren't willing to necessarily go into a church, they see these online churches and they're able to still receive what they would receive if they were coming into the actual church.
Okay.
Yeah, I think social media in general has a negative effect. Like
on what or who exactly?
On people, period.
Okay.
If I wasn't an artist, I probably wouldn't be on social media just because I see so much misinformation, hatred, negativity that I just could go without seeing. Like, I don't like viewing that all the time. And just people giving opinions on stuff they have no idea about.
Right.
Just talking just to talk.
Talking just to talk.
Yeah.
That's true. And I think to what Jeff's point of exposure is, he's right. We're part of that last generation where we had to kind of like really look for information about anything outside of what our parents were raising us in. You had to like go out your way to find a book about, you know what I mean? Something else. And like my parents had a book about the religions of the world, like, you know, in their library. But the whole point of the book was that they could disprove all the other religions. You'd be like, see, they don't believe in X, you know, X, Y, Z. But I would be interested in like just reading, be like, oh. And like literally, because I was a nerd kid, reading about things like why this sector, group, or religion, the divinity of Christ or something was different to them, or the reality of heaven and hell was different. I was intrigued by it, to be honest. Mm-hmm. Things like Mormonism and Jehovah's Witness and, you know, more fringe, you might think, especially to our culture. And I just see how we're, I think, as African Americans, and maybe this is a young black backlash you guys can jump in on, because we're often such a constricted culture when it comes to thinking and kind of forced into that constriction, because we're not always, especially in certain areas like maybe the Midwest and South and different places where new ideas aren't exactly the most accepted thing in the world. Like there's a backlash against that. And some of that exposure that Pastor Jeff mentioned might actually be, well, how come I wasn't given a chance to explore different things? Or I can't believe it took me to turn 30 and get a Facebook page and the internet to figure out that other beliefs actually did exist. And I'm being sympathetic to that by not being judgmental as a pastor, because I know exactly what I believe, but I understand that people have freedom to believe what they want, but only so much as they actually know that there's something else to believe. You know, and so do you feel that, Mark, saying that you're on like a different spiritual path, like some of this is almost like, maybe do you wish you had more opportunity at a younger age to explore, or you're just grateful for the opportunity you have now to just kind of navigate and have these resources at your fingertips?
Yeah, I can agree with that. I feel like, you know, as a child, when you're questioning things, you get shushed or you're told, no, that's the devil. You can't ask that question.
The devil asking hard questions. When you ask a question the Sunday school teacher can't answer, it's definitely the devil.
Yeah.
You need to be rebuked.
Right.
And really, you know, maybe that child just needs you to explain something to them. Or if you don't know, why don't you just say, I don't know, but I'll try to find that answer for you and get back to you.
Right.
I think many pastors have come to that conclusion now. You know,
But it wasn't that way.
It wasn't that way.
Absolutely.
You know, it seems like they almost had this superiority type effect going on back then, that, you know, they wanted you to think that they knew it all, even if they didn't.
Well, can I tell you one thing? I think the people wanted them.
Yeah, that too.
The people
Absolutely.
wanted to believe the pastor knew everything. And so he had to live up to that.
Live up to that standard.
And, you know, you asking them questions. I mean, I got some questions at VBS this summer. And they were like, we're gonna do questions with the pastor. And I was like, all right, cool. But I started reading them questions. I was like, I'm busy this week, y'all. Man, I don't know where dragons come from, man. I don't know to answer these questions.
We have a couple questions from
okay.
comments. I'll start with you can go to one, Todd, but I'll start with Dave Hallbrooks. Pastor Dave Hallberg, excuse me. He says, I think we miss the young folk by always treating them like younger folk.
Yeah.
Not truly allowing them to engage because they aren't old enough yet or experienced enough. We also tend to treat their questions with contempt rather than with respect. How do y'all feel about that?
I agree with it.
I agree.
Definitely. The young people. Listen, man, if I wasn't a pastor, I'd still be in the Sunshine Band. I'd still be in the youth choir. I would still not be qualified in most contexts to be. Now, there's like a whole group of young pastors that always come up real young, like in their 20s. But for the most part, if you're in your early 20s, even into your 30s, pushing 40, you're still considered youth, like childlike youth. And to me, that's demeaning. And I told the story before on the podcast, having a professional career at a young age in the banking and working with another young man who was actually younger than me, but had a degree, an MBA already. And he's like, dude, I went back to my grandma's church and they don't even let me help count the offering.
Wow.
And I'm like dealing with old cats that can't even like keep the book straight. And I'm here 24 years old with a whole MBA, but I'm already still being treated less than. And of course, the structure, the setup is not as professional as we get exposed to in the rest of the world. She's like, why would I deal with this? You know, and so that was perfect about sort of infantilizing,
Absolutely.
you know, youth and young adults. And do you feel that that's I mean, we know you agree with it, but what do you think is the effect of it?
I mean, I think the effect is driving youth out of the church. Nobody wants to feel like their opinion isn't taken seriously, or they are less than, or they're being demeaned in some sort of way. So the effect is, all right, I can get demeaned out in the world. I don't need to keep carving out time to go into church and get demeaned or get told, oh, you just a child, just be quiet. So why keep wasting my time?
Right.
Let me ask you guys this, because I know, and I know Pastor Todd does not do this, and I definitely try not to do this, but many churches have sort of segregated services where they have Youth Sunday. You know what I mean?
Well, we still have Youth Sunday, but it's like kids.
Right, but you also allow your youth to
at all times.
at all, you know, every
Yeah.
you know, they do something. Your daughter's on this, you know, some of them on the praise team or the choir.
Right.
Do you think that's segregated, you know, where, you know, because what happens oftentimes is those youth only show up on that Sunday that they come to perform. And so do you think, you know,
And they're confined to a certain type of performance.
right, absolutely.
You know, read this prayer.
Right.
You know.
That those
They're going to come in their own way. We're gonna have the young folks, and they're gonna. That means young people about to do something strange that the old folk don't like, and they're gonna sit there and act like they all right, baby, okay, all right. When y'all can get back to singing devotion songs. Come in your own way. Come in your own way.
What do y'all think about those segregated services?
I don't see a problem with them.
So you think it's good sometimes to give?
I don't see a big
I think
problem
the youth
either.
Sunday is good, especially like Second Baptist to the age group that you're doing the youth Sunday at. I don't see a problem with it at all.
How about some places that like totally segregate? Like there's a whole different young adult church going on during they got their whole own building. It's literally like this is for age 18 to 30, and if you want to have church with 18 to 30-year-olds, just come here on Sundays. You know what I mean? Like it's just. With that, do you think that's healthy, good? Is that something that would be appealing?
I think it could be appealing.
Okay.
It seems like a new approach to church. You know what I mean? So,
I got you.
I don't see much wrong with
Start
that.
next week. There will be 18 to 30 church in a location to be announced.
No, I don't think that's a bad idea, depending on why it's being done. If it's being done just simply because these are young people, you know, then that's not okay. But if it's because the style of the preaching seems to appeal more to that age group, and I feel like that would actually work really well.
Let's unpack that word style.
I got a lot of it, by the way.
Okay, you got a lot of it. Mark said, you're talking to the right man. There has been a lot of conversation, and hearkening back to the jokes me and Jeff were talking about earlier about the young adults that are in the church that we often interact with are normally kind of like the lifers, and honestly, not to use this word in a derogatory way, but sort of the performers of the church. Like they have a function. It's almost always music and singing, or maybe a graphic artist or something, or both, or a combination. And so a lot is said by the young adults who are engaged, and usually at the sort of performative stage level area, that what y'all need to change is the style. Style needs to change. And I want to draw away from total stereotype, dirt floor, him and Han church. Mm-hmm. I'm not sitting here to talk about doggone Color Purple Church.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because there are a lot of kind of middle of the road places trying to offer some variety. Might not be a Beyonce show, but a lot of our churches are, you know, trying to offer what might be. And my church, I can definitely speak for Second Baptist, like, okay, we're trying to be as generational possible. And there's a lot of pushback that we've had tough conversations with and even podcasts about from within, those that are actually a part of the church. And it's like, y'all need to change. It's not modern enough. It's not almost like not cool enough. You don't jam enough. You don't, you know, this kind of thing. Is that the number one driver for you? Is just the atmosphere of latest and greatest music, most modern sounding, modern looking? Like I wanted to look. I don't want to come in here and see no pews. I don't want to come in here and see no cross. We don't want. Is that because that's what comes from the inside a lot?
Right.
The inside is like. And I'm as a pastor, I'm saying, man, you need to drop $20,000 on renovating this stage and blah, 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 blah. Like, and sometimes I've made it plain to them. I feel like, are you just doing this for you? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, are you a bored church kid that you want this? Because I was a young musician. I wanted my dad to buy me the latest, the greatest, the this, the that. But honestly, it had nothing to do with the broader church. It was really like, I heard a new Kirk Franklin joint and I have to play it and I wanted to sound just like it, regardless of whether it actually relates to anybody. Mm-hmm. So I guess the question is, are the inside young adults that you know, and I'm sure you know some young adults that are like really, really church into the church, are they thinking and giving the same vibe for young people that you have being outside the church, or not as, you know, being a performer stage person? Do you feel like you're on the same wavelength with?
Not for me, no.
For you, no?
I don't really care about all that, the aesthetics of the church and pews and what kind of chairs you have. And if you have the latest, greatest technology, it's about, I'm coming to get a word. and I'm coming to get my spirit fed. If you can't do that, I don't care how nice the inside of it is. I don't want to be here.
That's okay.
That's one.
Yeah,
How do
I
you
mean
feel, Mark?
the aesthetics would play a minor part, I'd say, but it's not really, the substance of it. I'm not like, if I visit a church, I'm not going in there like, oh, look at these walls, look at the lights up there. Like that, I might look at it, that's cool, but I want to see what's really being done. Are they really making a change in here? Is it real work being done, or is it just all a big show? Like,
then that's kind of something we've wrestled with. Absolutely. Is have we, there's a phrase that gets used a lot in our generation now, and those that serve this generation of churches, the spirit of excellence, having your production up and tight and lots of things like that. And just something I've noticed, and I still pastor a traditional Baptist church with a little bit of new school, but it's really not much. I think it's more the relatability and just me personally giving an assessment of my church. I would think it was more the relatability, the community activism kind of stuff, how we're engaged. I really feel like that's the draw, and I could be wrong, but I feel like if our choir sings these songs and we do this hymn and you still have a traditional band and it's pretty like you expect when you walk into an old school church, that's not making somebody put their finger up and walk out the door. I think what they really care about is, especially younger generations, are what Moriah said. Is there a word being preached to help my life and reveal truth to me? And then, like, what is this faith doing in a real way in the world? And I personally believe, and I could be wrong, and I'd like y'all to expound on it. Does it matter more what a church does inside, no matter how great it is, or does it matter more what a church does? And
That's an easy answer for me.
talk about how that feels
I need
to
to
you.
know why do you say that?
Because the people that are saved are most likely in the church, and they're aware of the teaching of the Bible, and they're aware of everything they need to have for their relationship with God and their walk with God. The people that aren't aware and that need probably the most help are probably outside of the church. And if you're not taking your community outside serious, why would they in turn respect what you're doing inside the church?
I love it. And here's the thing, though. Oftentimes, what's done outside is not what's videotaped.
Right.
What's done outside is not what's commercialized and what people see and what people know. So if those who are young are saying, I'm not coming based on what I see, then what they see is not what's going on outside. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
They're
that
not
makes
seeing
sense.
all the evangelism, the food giveaways, those type of things. You know what I'm saying? They see on Facebook the show or the service.
I think we overshoot that, though, Pastor Jeff.
What you mean?
I think we overshoot, like, personally, I think that a 30-year-old will basically scroll past the church service on Facebook.
You think so?
I think so. A 30-year-old that's not already ingrained in church, like, we are.
Okay, you're talking about just somebody.
Yeah,
somebody.
A Mark. I'm just bringing up Mark. A Mark is not like, man, let me see what's up over at Third Baptist. You know what I mean? Like, but if he rode by, Third Baptist had a banner up,
Right,
saying school supply giveaway for the kids, I think a Mark would be like, that's what's up.
Absolutely.
And that's what I feel. I think, and again, because we're inside.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, we play the comparison game, and again, we are surrounded, and I'm grateful. And again, I'm not bashing, because we had guests on that were like the musicians of the church, the worship leaders of the church, but their sole focus seemed to be make this as good as possible. And I did ask the question at one point, well, for who though? For who? The subset of people that really, really like if I'm a musician, of course, and you're an organist, I'm like, dog, I gotta hear you. But if I'm not, and I don't really care about who the organist is or care how the notes are so perfect, then that becomes a moot point. And I almost feel like a lot of our churches get so good at church and want to be better at church, we forget about the actual mission of the church.
Absolutely.
And it's like, I could be the greatest hip hop artist ever, but if I'm in a country western town, what's the point?
Sister Leah asked a question.
Yes.
Do young people feel as if the messaging or the message is relatable to real life experience of their generation?
Well, for my pastor, Pastor Todd, absolutely. He relates to this generation. To me, he relates to every generation. So, from my experience right now, where I'm currently at, absolutely.
For $20 now. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
He didn't give it to me, y'all.
No, I didn't.
Do you listen?
This is a classic preacher move.
Any pastors right now? Do you watch or listen to any of them at all?
Every once in a while, I might listen to TD
You feel
Jakes
like it's
in the
okay.
morning.
Okay.
If I see something on Facebook and it's short, not a long sermon, I'll tune in.
You ain't watching me, dog.
Yeah, like if you throw up like an 8 to 10 minute video,
One of them-
what's
okay.
Pastor Todd talking about?
I'm on
I'll
it.
tune in. So
Absolutely.
I feel like he does a great job in that aspect.
I think somebody who said that they do. I don't know. I was at some conference and they said that they do their sermon on Sunday, and then like Monday through Friday they do like 5
Snippets.
minutes a piece of it, and just talking about breaking it all the way down. And
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to do that. So what is it actually? And we started this off like this, but what is it? Is there anything that you would say is what we call antiquated in the church now? Just some outdated, something that we need to stop, where you would say, I wish the church wouldn't do this anymore.
I'm sure some churches, but again, my church.
Her church is perfect. Her pastor
I mean,
is
no,
perfect.
like I don't want to. Like I'm
$100 offering.
like, Pastor Todd really represents to me
But speak
what
about
a
the whole
pastor should
church. We don't want
be.
to talk about, but I mean, speak about what you see and hear from other maybe places and people, maybe frustrations from friends. Do you see things that people are like, yeah, just overall, that needs to stop? Like maybe the way people talk about money, or, you know what I've heard a lot? Don't, like the social anxiety part. Like, don't call out visitors. Don't put people on the spot. Don't make people speak.
I actually had a visitor last week who said, they did not
I've had people
be
say it all the
called
time.
off.
I want to come to your church, but are you gonna call my name?
Right.
So
I mean, that the most I ever hear is that most people just feel that the church is judgmental.
judgment. Okay.
Yeah.
Judgmental. And
Oh, my bad.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, judgmental and the hypocrisy are two of the well-known things that get thrown out there, and those are two things that humans are very hypocritical.
Okay.
Whether you're in church or outside of church,
Absolutely.
humans are judgmental whether you're in or out. I think it becomes a conflict because church should be like a quote unquote safe space. So like if you go there, you're hoping not to be judged. You're hoping not to see the same corrupt practices that you see on the outside world.
Right.
So once you see that, it goes back to, once again, all right, I might as well just stay out there.
I think we also have to realize that there's a difference between condemnation and conviction, because church should in some way, shape, or form convict you at some point or another. You should feel, that what we're preaching, what we're saying, what we're talking is actually changing your life for the better. And if we're not doing that, then oftentimes there are many pastors who preach cookie cutter, tickle me Elmo words that make you feel good, and self-help books and all that stuff. And I know Pastor Todd, I know myself, neither one of us are those type of preachers.
No, I did today. Everybody's gonna be a millionaire, and money cometh to me.
No, I don't necessarily buy into the whole, I feel it's judgmental, it's this, it's that, so I don't want to go into the church because of that. But yet on the outside world, you go to places that you're judged all the time and you go back and you keep going back. So what's the difference if you feel like one of the people in the church are judging you, but you can go back to other places?
And I think what Mark said to that answer is you don't expect, or at least there's the ideal. And I think what happens is some people overdo the ideal and they're not honest. And we are more of a generation now that will very clearly and probably a little bit more sincerely say, we're not perfect. We all have issues. I think it was like a cliche before.
Right.
But now I think in a group of us, it's more genuine. And one thing that used to bug me, and I would even speak like my own dad, and not to put him down, but my own dad would often say, I got issues too. I got issues. And I'd be like, well, what then? Like what? Like, I'm not asking you to expose anything dirt and nasty, but I'm just like, you're not actually being specific about any of this. You're not like literally saying, I used to have a really terrible jealous streak, or I was da-da-da-da-da, or I still struggle sometimes with, managing my money or whatever it might be. So I think we're a more authentic generation because it's all out there anyway. People are going to find out. People are bolder about talking about it. Ain't all this, at least not too much, ain't all this secret preacher stuff that people try to hide. I mean, you're going to be straight on Insta, if somebody see you out, it's going to be on blast. So I think there's an authenticity built in, but I agree to a point. Like, some of it is, I worry that an image of faith in church has been fed to a generation that never actually really went to church the way you two have. And so they're getting their ideas of church from, and I say this jokingly, but real, Tyler Perry plays, Steve Harvey jokes, Facebook memes. Y'all like Loretta Devine off the Tyler Perry movie. Everybody in the choir stands smacking their lips and looking at people. And I'd be like, I've been in church all my life, and I've literally watched it change during my lifetime. Of like far more like egalitarian, more like my church. Like most people in my church don't even wear hats much anymore. And the way it once was just like, the whole people like, church ain't nothing but a fashion show. I'm like, have you been to our church lately? People are not looking special up in this piece. You know what I mean? So I do feel like some of these critiques are a little contrived, not because they were never true or cannot be true, but because the people haven't had the experience to see the whole picture. They've just sort of had the image.
This generation is just soft, honestly.
I was going to ask that.
Like,
do you feel like people are just more sensitive and soft to things, and the church is a part of that?
I don't understand why. Yes, people are very soft, and you can't do anything nowadays without it being a problem. I don't understand why people believe because you go in the church that everybody in the church, I guess you become perfect as soon as you step in the church, so you expect that nobody in the church should be judgmental. It doesn't work like that. Life doesn't work like that. Just because you go to church doesn't mean you go in and you
I don't
become
think
not
that's what people expect. But I think
they do. They always say that, pretty much.
I think they expect that when you're a Christian, I'm going to notice your light when you're standing next to me. And I don't expect a Christian to treat me worse than a agnostic person or an atheist. And many people have had that
experience.
Yeah, they've had that experience. Okay. So I don't think it's just all contrived and old. I think real people have had these bad experiences and letdowns by people who claim to be of faith, and that drove them away.
To the point that Moriah made about your generation being soft, do you think this generation, the word I like to use the Dave Chappelle term, the great theologian Dave Chappelle. He says we're a brittle generation. He likes to use the word brittle, and I kind of like that phrasing. I do notice that there's a lot of more sensitivity to obviously feelings and vibes and how someone made me feel. I mean, literally, as young, Jeff and I were raised in a generation you could play hide and go get. Okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm saying, now my kids have to
Moriah want to know what that is.
Yeah, I don't know what hide and go get is.
run around and grab girls' butts.
Oh.
Yeah, that's basically what that was.
I have no idea.
Basically, run around and grab girls' backsides, right?
I'm glad you don't know that.
Right, we're glad. She was real saved. Shoot.
That sounds like a Trump type of game.
Right. Trumpopoly. Yeah. No, but seriously, but I'm teaching my 9-year-old about his body and consent, and my 13-year-old having that talk, and it's not just that talk. Like, It's also talk about how you talk to a young lady, watch what you say. And we got to talk like, you can be sued, doc. Like, yo, I ain't got that much money. Right. That kind of stuff. And I'm saying that to say, some people would say that's an overreaction. I'm using that as an example. Mm-hmm. Other people would say, this is the safety we should have always had. So I'm saying that about the church. Whereas when you say that we're soft, maybe we should have been more sensitive all along, and we just weren't. And we kind of treated people harshly because the world is harsh. And and this was the only place you could go, and there wasn't a lot of options. So what the preacher said was law, how the saints treated you was what it was, and you're just supposed to get your spirit up, and da-da-da-da. And maybe it should have always been more considerate. We just didn't know how to be more considerate. Mm-hmm. Or maybe there's a middle ground, and we are too soft and too. I was just reading an article about how people are just throwing therapy words out there like all the time. Right. Everything's toxic. Everybody's a narcissist. Everybody's gaslighting. Everything's making me feel. But it's like, are we going too far? Mm-hmm. And we live in a world of extremes. Is there some middle ground where young adults can maybe pull back a little bit from that everything offends me kind of thing? And like she said, recognize that everybody's judgmental. And what you're saying is that you still don't expect Christians to treat you cruelly. But like, is there a middle ground there of, like I said, understanding the authenticity of what it means to follow Christ? Like, well, unfortunately, I'll probably have some cruel moments in my walk, and it might affect you. Mm-hmm. Like, how does that like hit you?
I mean, ideally, you would hope for a middle ground. It's so hard to find that because the scale is always tilting one way to the other way. I mean, that's how I see it.
Let me ask y'all this, because Todd mentioned how even
Bishop Johnson, by the way,
even oversensitivity and things of that nature. But I think we've come to a place where, transparency is one of the hot words now.
Yeah,
we want to be transparent.
Keep it real.
I think there's been some over transparent people. Mm. They telling too much of their business.
We can't have testimony service no more.
I mean, do you notice that people are just like, literally it is stated that you can literally get a divorce as a pastor and still retain.
You can preach about it while you're getting the divorce.
Right, and still retain 3/4 of your congregation, because we have this soft spot, and it's a grace towards everybody that, I may have done the same thing, but I didn't get caught. So I'll have grace for you. You know what I mean? And I'll just let you do whatever you want to do. And so I think this.
Should we not have grace for everybody?
No, we should. I'm not saying we should.
Flaunt things with that grace, like it becomes like a defiance. Like, since we ain't judging each other, you know what I mean? It's like, well, since we ain't judging each other, let me just tell my story. Right. You know what I mean? I got 2 hoes. You know what I mean? But I mean, I literally watched a cat like preach to his divorce, and he like preached the most defiant sermon ever. Like, I'm still the dude.
Right.
Everybody knows.
I'm still
if you're a preacher, you know who I'm talking about. I'm still the man. Like, literally through the divorce,
and dropped the mic
and walked off. People were like, yo, and I'm like, yo, I'm sorry. I'm like, is this like? Now, like you said, that pendulum.
Yeah.
The transparency thing, yes, absolutely. People are way too transparent, and it gets praised way too much, and it does not make any sense to me at all.
Keeping some things to yourself doesn't mean you're being inauthentic. Like, having some discretion,
right,
doesn't mean that you're not being real. There are some things I'm not just gonna get up in the pulpit. I'll tell little jokes about my wife and I and our relationship and da. But I'm not gonna be like, well, to relate to y'all, let me talk to y'all about our sex life. Let me talk about this, that, and the other. It's like there's just some stuff that will just never come up, and it's not my place. It might be like somebody mentioned in the comments, I think it was Dee, that small groups or personal talks. You're just chatting, you trust me, and I can tell you about life and things I've been through. But I feel like we've made like a stage of everything, and we live like in an age of exhibitionism. And I heard a minister say, and he's kind of living it out now, he said it before he kind of blew up, and now he's blown up, that we live in the age where attention is the new currency. Mm-hmm. Like, we live in an attention economy.
Absolutely.
And I feel like that's become a draw in the church, like who gets them. And I even have to watch myself, like, am I doing this because it's the authentic thing in my heart, or do I just really know real quick what can get like 400 likes really fast, real quick? All I gotta do is kiss that baby and post up on Instagram, and I love
can both be true at the same time?
Talk about it.
I mean, you can be genuine, and that being genuine is what gets you that 400 likes, because people can see that, they can feel that. I don't think there's anything wrong as long as you're being true to you.
Right. Yeah. I think the intent matters, and unfortunately, we do live in an age of influence where people are just too quick to follow any figure, and that kind of leads me to my last part of how much of your engagement, appreciation, and honestly, and don't, it doesn't have to be, don't say me, But how much when you look at the church and when you hear other people talk about church, when they do like church, when they do, wherever they live, wherever they go, because we live in such a personality-driven world, how much is it actually the fellowship and the church that you like being a part of, and how much is it the person? Because I walked into a church that's congregational. Baptist churches are traditionally congregational, which just means it's supposed to be like a bottom-up kind of thing. But we live in a personality-driven society where you don't know church names, you know preachers' names.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know preachers' names. And so I get it. As a young adult and a young dude in our city, I get like, all right, what's that Pastor Todd season, da-da-da-da. But I'm like, that's dangerous, though, because heaven forbid I fall or disappoint somebody or offend somebody. Well, now it was too stuck on the person. Do you think your generation is more attached to the organization or the individual?
The individual.
Individual.
Well, I don't even think that's just their generation. Though. I think that's been, I know growing up, we've been to churches around here who,
the hottest name.
Yeah, the hottest name. And you didn't think the pastor used the bathroom like everybody else.
They don't. The Holy Spirit go for them.
Isn't it coming?
And then falls happen and things happen and people are fallible. We make mistakes. No pastor is perfect. You know what I mean? We fall. So, I think it. Like you said, people say, "Oh, I go over there to Pastor Jeff. I go over there to Pastor Todd.
I go to Pastor Todd.
I go to
Yeah.
So they don't name the church anymore. They name the person.
It's weird. They name the church when their loved one dies. When Aunt Bertha died, they know that church name. They know who to tell Sterling who to call.
Why you gotta say Bertha? Yeah, that Bertha. There's a Bertha in every church.
There's a Bertha in every church.
There's a Bertha in all our Baptist churches.
So does that say more about the individual or less about the church itself?
I had that conversation once. That conversation came up in my church with a couple of leaders, and it was well, what's going to happen if you ever leave? I said, well, that sounds like that's on you. You know what I mean? Like, and my point to them was, if let's make up a number, 50 people have joined the church since I've been the pastor, and you haven't gotten to know any of them, then what chance would you give them to stick around if the Lord called me home tonight? Or if I'm the pastor of Mars Baptist Church next week or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, well, what did you do in the meantime to create community, which I feel is severely lacking in our culture, in-person community, and church can help fill that gap, but only as much as the church actually functions like a community. If you just function like I came to a concert, like I go and my wife and I, we go to a concert. We don't know these people we're sitting next to. Don't kind of really want to know them. We all come to see the artist, see the show, go home. And I think that's more on us to be different. I kind of admonish my church a lot. Like, I might not be everybody's favorite person, and I won't even have a chance to get to know them. But if you get to know them, the friendships, the connections you build, my sermons, hopefully people want to come. But I think it's the connections that kind of keep people around. And that's why you have people that have stayed connected to a church fellowship through different pastors, through different seasons, through difficulties. And I kind of want to just, go that direction. Like, how does that fit your view of what church could be and should be for your generation, building community? And how can we do a better job of helping you as a generation to build community and connections?
That's good.
It's the heavy stuff, Doc.
Yeah. See, I'm an overthinker, so it might take me a while to give my
Moriah.
answer for that.
I was thinking. Look, I gave him that look, like
Right.
That's
like more activities, more ways of just doing things outside of church.
Yeah, I think doing things outside of church and showing and being upfront with your humanity really makes a difference. Not being overly transparent, like you were talking about, but a little transparency goes a long way. You know what I mean? If I know that you're not living up to this cookie cutter fake standard of perfection, and you got some dirt like I got some dirt,
and you're pretending like you're not.
Yeah, and you're pretending like you're not. If you're not doing that, it's it's gonna draw me to you because I'm like, okay, this is a real guy. Like he likes sports too. He likes some stuff I like.
Absolutely.
And you're actually doing work in a community, shoulder to shoulder with me, who's outside of your church. That goes a long way, and that would draw me to you.
I've said all the time that the dandelion has no right to talk about, or the rose has no right to talk about the dandelion when they both grew up in the same dirt.
Wow.
You know, we both had the same situation. We both came
Let me
up
put
in the
that in
same.
my
Right,
notes
put that
real
down. I'm gonna use that in the sermon.
But
My next Facebook.
That's a bar. That's a bar.
Bars.
But you know, what to what you're saying, I think, you know, I think a lot of us, a lot of pastors, especially, you know, you have a guy like Pastor Todd, who I had the privilege of coming up under. So a lot of my ways are things he taught me and things I learned from him and his dad.
Don't blame me for that.
But just being an activist and being, you know, being an organizer, working in the community. And oftentimes I think, you know, to our last point, when you said, was it the church or was it the pastor's fault? We are just doing so much, you know, so much outside of our Sunday morning services, so much outside of, you know, our Wednesday night Bible studies. We're doing work, you know, we're out there in the community doing these things. So, you know, it's not that they're saying, you know, you're better than the church. They just see you doing stuff that maybe the church isn't doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the case. And there are different lives going on along generations. It kind of reminds me of community work and political work and things like that. Let's be honest. I mean, a lot of the drivers of many churches, not all, but many of our churches are often our older generations who are more settled in life. They're not always like in pursuit of something or trying to figure out life. They're not all retired, but many are just a little bit more stable. And I noticed like, even being a pastor, I'm chasing 3 little kids around. I got things going on. I'm still trying to get my finance, my credit together. I'm, you know, all these different things, trying to take our time, be a young adult, be young and married, and trying to do that. And it doesn't fit, you know, a church full of 70, 80-year-olds that have lived that life. It's been some time. It's been a while for them. Not to say that they're any way dismissed or diminished in their worth or value, but we're obviously living very different lives right now. And sometimes it feels like the church is not structured to fit the needs of the life patterns, the schedules, the demands of young life. I mean, I've gone to stuff where, you know, I've had to tell some people in my church, like, yo, I know we got this whole schedule of Saturday morning meetings, and like, I'm coming to all this. I'm a young father. Like, I'm not, you know, for somebody who is enjoying the retired life, God bless them, that's a thrill. You know what I mean? For me, it's a burden.
Right.
And I see the disconnect there, even as a pastor. And so it takes something to be able to bridge those worlds, you know. We kind of want to end up with a couple things. You can be a little lighthearted about it. You know, we talked about things that frustrate. It doesn't have to be stuff that runs you away or makes you not want to go to church. It might be stuff you want to come to church that makes you laugh. What's some just weird, unique stuff about church, especially the Black church, that sometimes you have to get outside of your culture to be like, oh man, we a little. I mean, I know I got this way. I'm like, we a little weird. like why our choir selections got to be 12 minutes long? Like why we can't just sing the song for 4 minutes like they do on the tape? You know, like, do you ever run into stuff where you just looked at it like, all right, you know, either I could do without that or that makes me laugh or stuff like that. Could you give us a few?
It's not a time to necessarily laugh, but sometimes praise and worship, some people make me laugh a little bit.
Get a little.
Yeah.
You're talking about Pastor Carla, aren't you? Well, we're so unique. Like, we don't know what's strange until we get out of it. Me and Dee just said hats on 1,000. She said hats on. We were talking about me and Dee Evans. We were at the Springer. We were talking about how it wasn't until we got out of like our church bubbles that we realized like how weird it would come off to anybody else who walked in here. Like, for real, y'all just all jumped up and started running around the church at the same time. Like, what you got, Mark?
Maybe some of the people that like act like they're speaking in tongues. I think that's super weird.
You think it's super weird? Now, is it weird if they do it or if they act like it?
It's weird if you act.
If
like
you act
that.
like
I know it's real.
you know when it's real.
Or the ones,
I know when it's not too.
the ones
Right.
that faint.
Now, people that faint.
Yeah. Some people I think may really faint, but some people definitely did not
Yeah.
faint at all.
I'm not.
Or
a
you
big-
keep trying to make somebody faint and they won't.
I'm not. Listen, I was a victim once, man. I was a victim. Me and this preacher did a whole catwalk all the way across the front of that church, man. I was like, I'm not going down. My back is too strong for this. I'm not. Like, I'm gonna lay this anointing on you. Like, I will not be defeated. Offerings that feel like a shakedown.
Yeah, we not leaving until
We're not leaving until we reach our goal.
Let's talk about that.
How much does money and
This is money.
how much does the church's approach to money and raising money? Big Mike wants to know. And again, good, bad, and ugly. You know, how has that affected your view when you go into church, see you raising money? And maybe you tell me what you think is legitimate, what is illegitimate. Like, how do you see that whole image of money in the church?
I don't have a problem with churches raising money. All
right, we got $1,000 line. We start tonight.
Because I understand there's expenses that need to be taken care of with a church, but I think some outsiders just feel like, oh, they shouldn't be asking for money at all. Like, why are they asking me for money? And that's just not realistic.
Right, right. Shoot.
Yeah, you
Baby need a
know.
pair of shoes.
Getting mad with the pastor drive.
Yeah.
That's
Pastors got they have these pastors are bivocational.
Right.
They got a job plus the church, and
Right.
I mean,
Jeff is really about to defend that Bentley he's about to buy. He is like, he's practicing his argument for the next meeting. I need a helicopter. Don't ask me why there's a helipad on the back of the church.
you go to your doctor's office and he got a Metro. What you
Listen.
gonna do? You going to that?
I would say he's dedicated to the people. Oh my goodness. Lines for blessings, special lines and prayer lines. So we talked about being slain. How y'all feel about
that
prayer
old,
lines?
That old choir line when they used to march in.
Oh yeah.
That was it right there.
I kind of enjoyed that. We need to bring
that
that back. We need to bring back matching outfits and marches. That's I think.
Bring back choir robes.
Choir robes?
Those
I like
3,000
choir
pound
robes.
choir
You like choir robes?
I like them. I
See,
like
you do?
them.
See?
Hey, they did away.
In
We broke some
uniform.
people's hearts at our church when we started wearing choir robes, man. We almost split the church over the choir robes. And I loved them too, but the new generation, they weren't with it. They weren't with it. I got a question, and this is a good one from our audience. Question to the guests. When I was in college, and for Mike, this is about 70 years ago, I had a dream.
I had a dream.
No, not Big Mike. I had a dream like Martin Luther King.
They are you too.
Of having a Christian club, like a gathering called First Sundays feel like, where the first Sunday of the month, there's a place where creativity and
Mike, you know you still want this club.
ministry
Stop.
can be shared. So anyway, Mike has a business proposition for y'all. Anyway, but he's saying, does that come off as authentic and something people actually want to do, or does it come off as too hokey, like the Christian club idea, like the
When you
Christian
say
hangout?
I
Christian,
think there's really something.
I mean, bump and grind for Jesus. I mean, like, you know what I'm saying? Bump and grind for God.
when you say Christian club, that sounds corny.
No,
y'all.
So that sounds cool.
No, I don't see nothing wrong with it.
Like a
I mean,
hangout or just a
like
gathering.
Don't call it Christian
It gotta be
because-
called something else.
Yeah.
What's
Y'all
wrong
be
with
coming up with weird names. They gotta be like the concrete.
What's wrong with Christian Club? Why can't we call it what
I'm speaking
is?
for myself.
The
If I hear
layer.
Christian club, that sounds real corny to me.
Citadel.
The Citadel.
The Citadel.
I think
Wakanda. Okay, you
I think those groups could be really good and authentic. It's because you have people of like mind with you. So I see it's authentic.
I wanted to do a young adult Bible study for the longest, but not in a church.
Well, that's
Yeah.
that's Paramore's doing it now. His young adults, 18 to 30.
I'm still on this idea. Still on the idea.
They are
Paramore.
over at the.
And I'm still on all your
Wick building.
young adults too.
And they're at the Wick building over on the north side.
I'm gonna go steal his members.
I don't understand that
Still
concept.
Paramore's members. You
I ain't stealing Suge's members.
Still Suge's
I don't understand that concept. Why do you guys feel that people will come and listen to the word outside of the church, but they
'Cause I
won't
think
come in the church?
That's because that's
Some
what I've
people just
heard.
will. Yeah.
I know it's
That's
a
what
thing,
people
but
have
I don't-
told me. They're
I know-
like, man, you know, if you did something different, you know, because I don't like coming to no church. Some just like getting up at 10 a.m. Like I've experimented with like
But you
Saturday
know
night
what?
service.
Wait a minute. Because we just had
We
a meeting
did.
the other day, and you said, well, should we have the forum? Because some people just don't want to go to a church.
Yeah, so I'm asking in your opinion, why do you think that is, that so people will literally come do everything that a church does, but they won't do it inside the church? Like, what is that?
I believe, and I'm being very serious, I believe that a part of, and I hate to use this word because I don't want to feel like I'm overusing the therapy word, but a part of trauma or bad experience is that it has a connection to sights and sounds and familiar experiences. And I've run into people, and you kind of just discern, to use a super spiritual word, that like they're not like super anti-church. They might be anti that kind of church, because let's just say I'm a hooping, sweating preachers walking on tables and doing all that stuff that old black preachers would do, and this half stuff I do, all that stuff. And then that preacher was the guy that had 3 ladies on the side and hurt people. Well, if they do get back into church, there might be a real good chance they end up like at a quieter teacher style, like it doesn't look or feel like what they experience, even if the look and the feel and the style has nothing to do with the action. There's just an association there. And I think that there's a negative association and connotation with the traditional church image and building. And by the way, it's just not often comfortable for any gathering besides a traditional worship service.
I was going to say, it's probably just
to be frank, Second Baptist is not a comfortable space. Besides traditional church, of course, I can hang out there all day. I ain't got nothing else to do. I get paid to do, of course, But for the average person, like, hey, come sit in this 20-foot pew real quick. It's an 800-foot sanctuary. 30 people going to be here. It doesn't feel intimate. You know what I mean? It's not structured. Now, some churches are, or they have those extra spaces in more modern churches. But that's why I talk about outside spaces, unless I can like convert a room, which is the kind of a fat chance in my context right now of making that happen. Unless I can like convert a room or something to be a space, it almost feels like you have to create space that's a little bit more comfortable to the whole small group, kick back, be authentic. Doesn't feel like I'm standing up here looking down here and we're like, I mean, look how church is just made. You're all facing one right way, and it doesn't feel like community.
And I think the comfortability of it
makes a big difference.
Lends to opening up and being able to talk and share whatever needs to be shared at that moment.
I mean, I've got a guy that wouldn't mind if I did like a barbershop joint like once a month. He's like, you can come in here, get a couple of cats, and we just chop it up. And I'm kind of like, oh, I'm good. I can make that happen. How you scale that or how you manage that. And maybe that's a problem with us, is that we're always thinking about scaling and bigness and stuff like that. And we're just never quite comfortable, I guess. All right, I got 3 people and 3 people is just it. And
in that moment. It's
like that corporate mentality that we go through makes us feel like everything's supposed to get bigger and better, and because you're failing if you're not, right? You know what I mean? So that's not true, but it still exists as a mentality. Whatever we do is supposed to grow. You know how they preach us. If it ain't growing, it's dying. And all that stuff. It's all like, yes, I'm dying. That's when I was 18. So, but I mean, I've been very intrigued by some of the stuff you guys have shared. Anything else you guys just want to share in generalities about church or spirituality that you feel like, if I had a platform to say a few things that I feel about, maybe what affects me or affects other people I know, what would you want a pastor to know? If you had a chance to speak for a generation and say, Pastor, I really need you to do these 3 things, because I think some people in my generation might really benefit from it.
I think I kind of already said my answer, which is just being out in your community, humanizing yourself. Those are just the 2 major things that I feel affect people the most. Like seeing you really out with us, not just cooped up in your church all the time.
Yeah, I agree. Community outreach for sure. And also when preaching and talking, talk to us, not at us.
That's good. That's good. And that's I was just literally reading up on that, like the different styles of preaching, and like some was like real authoritarian, and a lot of us were raised on that. And it's hard to break that, because again, from our perspective, from the perch up there, it's like people like, hey, tell me how to live. You know what I mean? So you're like, all right, I will then, too. And you're like, because it's such an expectation, it's not made for conversation. It's made for a presentation.
Right.
And so we have to balance that better, I think, to reach generations. And I think there's still space for the corporate space if it's balanced with the more community space.
Absolutely.
Do you ever have,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask, do you ever have times where maybe you preach, but then you allow some questions to fly, or?
You know, I don't do it on Sundays.
I know somebody who does do it on Sundays. I don't know how it would work. It's kind of difficult. One of the things I like to do, and I think is a good way of doing it, is maybe preaching what I preach on Sunday, and then on Bible study, talk
Question
about what
and
I
answer.
preached. You know, that gives you a couple days to come up with questions and answers.
Right.
And then we come back and we actually break. Because, I mean, for me, at least for me, you know, I may have 6 pages of notes that, you know, I only, you know, that sermon is only 20, not his, mine, it's 20 to 30 minutes. So I still got a lot more that I could have said that I didn't, that I can bring up,
Right.
you know, on that Wednesday.
I like that as a concept. I do fear that we live in such an argumentative and adversarial.
You see it going the wrong way.
I guess to see it going around real quick. And another thing, the book of the book of Eli says, you know, they fill out their own dictionary, like,
Right.
you know. So I just feel like I'd like to do some of that, but I think that's the whole point of creating other spaces where you can, as Jeff said, basically the same material,
Right.
but presented in a much different way. Like I could take what I preached right now and say, y'all, let's talk about God and how we approach God and talk to God and what you think about it, and we kind of go back and forth about what it means. And I think that would be good conversation, you know. So, but like y'all, you know, shout it out from the. Nah, Doc, I got the mic.
Right.
Bruh.
And then also,
Nah, it's all I need is one mic.
us as black preachers, when we done.
Yeah,
we
we
spent.
done. Yeah.
We are spent.
Yeah, I do not
You
want to
know,
answer
we've
questions.
hollered.
I want to talk to my kids. I'm like, get out of my face.
You know, we don't want to answer no question. Did
That
you
is
just
true.
hear me?
That is true. Like I literally hooped this. So we got Big Mike.
I feel like the younger generation, even myself, not saying I'm in the younger generation, but
Yeah, we know that.
Hey, we know you ain't young, Doc.
but I do have a lot of questions,
You do.
and I think the younger generation.
Call a brother then. Shoot, you got my number. You think they would appreciate that?
Right. I think
So in the same space or in a different space or different time?
in a different space, of course.
Okay.
Not Sunday morning service, but I think there should be some dialogue because there's so much information out there. A lot of younger people don't know what to believe
Gotcha.
because there's so much out there. So it's like, well, who's right? They say they right. They say, you know what I'm saying? So there's so much out there.
I'm right. That's what I tell them.
But I agree with you, Mike, because I've heard so many times, even before I ever pastored, you know, somebody preached a sermon, they went crazy preaching. It's like, wonderful sermon. What he preach about? Oh man, I can't even tell you, man. But
No
it was
idea.
good though. It was good. It was because
Show did
you know,
preach.
it was that show, and so I think it's great to, like I said, maybe come back on a Tuesday or a Wednesday night Bible study and just break it all down, and you know, let the questions come to you.
I like it.
I don't know. I think I'm like old school because I just feel like some stuff just really shouldn't be questioned.
You think some stuff should
This
be
is like
questioned?
this is what it says.
But it's not
She
not
said,
question it.
like your pastor. Don't question my pastor.
I might be old school because I really feel like some things just shouldn't be questioned. Like,
I think that's a horrible idea.
I mean, it probably is.
Well, what I say is whenever you hold any deep conviction, and that might span across different types of philosophies and beliefs. I'm sure there's lots of different people who just have some rock solid convictions or realities. And not just, I think we associate that with Christianity so much. We forget that there are lots of people that are locked into something, some belief or way. And for them, they have some undeniable truths, some eternal beliefs that you're never going to shake them out of, and they might fight you over. And I think we just associate that with Christianity being the dominant religion, and they're the ones always kind of on blast, and we've just got so many experiences of grandma saying, the Bible said it and I believe it, and da-da-da-da-da. We forget that there's somebody saying the Quran says it, I believe it. My heart says it, I believe it. The tree told me I believe it.
The stars say it.
Right. Trump told me I believe it. So we forget that that's really a universal dynamic. And I think it's just, it sounds so bad coming from the traditional Christian lady, but again, like you said about judgmentalism being a human experience, I think that's human too. I think we all have some bedrock things that we might not say it that way, And even people who are like, I'm questioning everything, like, well, they're really not.
Scott said,
We ask questions nonstop. Listen, you can ask all the questions you want at Sunday night service.
Absolutely.
I mean, all the
and we
questions.
will answer them.
Okay, I'm going to end with Scott's question. I know we said we was going to end, but we're not. I ain't got nowhere to be. Scott asked a good question earlier, and I'm going to add a word to what he asked. What is something positive that happens at or within church that you wish more of your peers could witness and see? So like with all the negative that is often associated,
that's good.
and don't, just outside of like the giveaways, like within the church or at church.
Man, you took my answer.
I know, yeah. I don't want to say give it. I mean like something that's communal and spiritual and beautiful to you that when you are going to church or you have been to church, you're like, man, I really appreciate what I just saw there or that experience.
It's beautiful to me when a pastor preaches a message and I feel like it was like tailor-made for me and it like really hits me and it's exactly what I needed to hear. Like that is something that's overwhelmingly beautiful to me.
I got you.
I agree with that, but for me, something that it touches me all the time is at the end of service when you have people come up and they get saved and they give their life to God.
Absolutely.
You would want to see more people to see that.
Yes.
For the first or second or third.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It's the fact.
Hey, you have a
You
fourth
sound
time.
judgmental.
You sound
Hey, I'm a human.
right. You raging hypocrite. But I love it though. I love that because I think that's been a snowball like this year for us. I genuinely believe at our little church, that's been a snowball is once some young adults saw other young adults make a decision about their life. And I've been very cautious and careful to say, you don't know where exactly this is going. Who knows what God wants to do with your life? I'm not trying to pigeonhole you into a shoebox. We are obviously of a certain faith and belief and doctrine, no doubt about it. But what that means, and let that mean what God is going to do in that person's life. Let it mean to them. And I think that by seeing others, people are like, okay, not only am I seeing a change in someone making that move, that bold step or whatever, but I feel a little broke down. And if I had a hardness about things or I wasn't willing to even give it a shot, like I feel like, okay, I can jump out there. And I think that's been a little snowball. I think churches where it never really happens get stuck in that cycle. Absolutely. Where it doesn't happen, which I've been in that situation too. And so you're just kind of talking to a wall because the people really open up the door, not the preacher as much. Right. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like once I touch a heart, which is beautiful, the heart comes down and then the next heart sees the first heart come down. Mm-hmm. Right. And so there's just like an openness. And so I'm not at all in any shape or form denying my faith, but I am giving more space to the experiences that people have and what brings them to this place. And I think when you talk about people sort of acting like perfect or whatever, or like they never had issues, I also think about older people who are a little disingenuous about how they came to Christ in the first place and how they behaved when they came to Christ in the first place. And I'm like, yo, you might have very well come socially. You might have followed your girl or your wife here. Mm-hmm. You might have came because in the 50s and 60s, it was the appropriate thing to do. Right. And now because you've been here a long time, you act like you were speaking in tongues your whole life, when in truth, you really weren't. And I think that maybe you grew into it, right. But it wasn't like that the first 20 years. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And stop getting mad because I didn't get saved the way you got saved.
Please.
You didn't see me walk down the aisle. You didn't see me get baptized. You ain't see me smoke the joint either, but you believed it.
Listen, I love getting them dings that somebody filled out a form online.
Absolutely.
After they watched the service. I'm like, okay. Because you think that the only way to do it is the emotional moment, which almost feels like a hard sell. Come on down. I'd be on it. Come on down. You know you need it. Come on down. Today only. Because you're my friend. I feel like a car salesman. What does Scott say? He said you got another podcast with these two. You got to do another podcast, Good Disagreements. I like it.
See, they calling me, y'all.
No, everybody calling you. I think they talking about Mark. They talking about Mark. Right, RIP 2.0. RIP Heathen Edition.
Heathen 1 and Heathen 2.
And, hey,
Shirts.
we're at the 90-minute mark, and I want to thank you guys so much for being on the show. I mean,
Thank you for having me.
You know what? That was the devil trying to make us not get online. Man, let me tell you, I'm about to pull that out of my back pocket. You know why that stream didn't work? That was nothing but the devil.
We apologize. We were a little late today.
I don't apologize.
We was
None of
trying
y'all.
to get it together.
But did Moriah be late to church? I ain't apologizing to no.
You gonna just call me out like
Just
that?
like that.
I'm gonna be on time next week.
We gonna have, what?
I'm gonna be on time
You
next
gonna
week.
Hey, Mike, we're gonna have a late to church cam at the church.
That's hilarious.
Late to church cam. Any final comments or thoughts before we go?
Yeah, I have a question for Mark.
Oh my.
Come on, Mark.
When are you joining, man? If you can help me out with the multi.
When are you joining, Mark? When you coming in the fold?
Joining this podcast?
Nah, brother. The fake speaking in tongues church.
I gotta practice my fake tongue
You
speaking.
gotta practice your fake tongue.
Hey, Mike Ingram just said it's going to be called the Creators Lounge.
The Creators Lounge.
The Creators
You like
Lounge.
I like that.
Okay.
Mike, is it going to be drinks there? Is there social drinking?
He better hurry up and get it copyrighted. I might have to.
Too late.
Coffee and Christ. Music is
Coffee
ministry.
and Christ.
Everybody share this post if you would join this
The
group.
Mocha Messiah. That's hilarious, man. No, but we appreciate it, man. I mean, it's great. Hey, man, I hire heathens too, man. I got plenty that been in part of the church for 70 years. So I mean, what's the difference? But no, it's been a real enlightening discussion. I like what you heard, like what you said, like what I heard, like what you said, and you know, I didn't want to say, well, I'm proven right, but me and Jeff been working out literally theories based that like juxtaposes again the in-church young adult versus the out-of-church young adult. And I mean, we're definitely enlightened by what you share.
Absolutely.
And that means a lot. And so we appreciate you guys. I know the audience and everyone out there appreciates it. Hey, y'all watching online, give it up and give some hand clap emojis for our guests, Moriah and Mark. We appreciate them. Mark's got to go on the witness protection program now just to get over being on a religious program. But after we go offline, we're going to start a prayer line.
Do any
you know
Christian
what I'm saying?
rap?
Do any gospel rap?
I do not, but I do have
You
some.
mention it in your songs.
I have some songs that I don't use profanity in, and
I tried to have Mark do gospel rap at the church. You started cussing it. But I hate that nigga.
When I was young, couldn't find a place
Right,
to rest.
right.
I
Hilarious.
got some songs you might enjoy though.
We might.
I would enjoy
You like
hearing
gospel
it.
rap?
No, not really.
I don't say I don't like gospel rap.
I like real rap.
I don't like gospel rap.
Yeah, I like
neither.
real rap.
Do you like gospel rap? I don't think it's real rap.
What? Lecrae is cool. Is he gospel?
He
Right.
ain't hardly gospel no more.
He ain't gospel.
He's inspirational.
I haven't heard any gospel rap as of late. So.
I heard one bar in like '93 about shooting demons with a machine gun or
Judah
something. I
Early,
was
Pastor
done.
Judah, Judah Early need to come
I was
back.
done.
He was the only gospel rapper I liked.
He's
Pastor
the only one you
Judah,
like.
yeah,
I never
he's-
listened to his stuff, but I knew he was cool when we was young. We went to school together. Yeah, he was cool. Well, hey, y'all, we're way over our time, and Mike has to go to work. It's past his bedtime. He's yawning over there. So
I have some heathen things to get into.
he got some heathen things to do. Mark the Heathen is ready to get it on. So y'all have a great night. Don't forget to follow us, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere you listen to your podcast. We'll be uploaded on YouTube. Don't worry about our YouTube audience. We'll be on. Love you. Take care. Be safe.